Welcome. Hopefully you've already seen the video on invention and already seen the video on organization. Today we're going to be talking about style, but I want to give us a quick recap, and I want to put it again in the context of what Kreider is suggesting is important about the essay. Maybe I'll start here with this quote, and hopefully you can read that. You may have to get real close to the screen. Real close. Quote is this: "The liberty to impose this formal unity is a liberty to handle the world, to remake it, if only a little, and to hand it to others in a shape which may influence their actions." This comes from Kreider's book, which I've referenced a lot in our classes so far. He also quotes Plato in this, saying that the art of soul leading by means of words is what the essay is. And he calls the writer a leader of souls. Now, we've often seen the essay as just another thing to write, just another 5 paragraphs and some idea we may not think is true. But if Kreider's right, if Plato's right, that the essay is this opportunity that we have to take a piece of the world and to remake it even slightly, to hand it to a reader and to say this may change your actions, then maybe it is soul leading, and maybe it does matter. And maybe it's worth our time enough that going through these different sections matters. Maybe what you can hand in at the end of this assignment is something you can be proud of and something that may change my actions or your other readers' actions. If that's true, we need to take it seriously. We've talked about invention. Maybe a quick recap. We want to find an idea, and I'm hoping that that idea is interesting, that that idea is true, that that idea is compelling, and hopefully that that idea is meaningful. We've talked about organization, and I've suggested that once we have an idea, we don't make a form and fit an idea into it. We take an idea and we fit the form around it. We create a box for our idea. And we've walked through the 6 different sections of organization. In general terms, we're looking for an order that's effective and clear, that's molded to the shape of your invention. Hopefully I've talked in class about thesis statements a little bit, and hopefully I've touched upon these 3 points, that in your organization, at some point you're going to have this thesis statement, and this could very well actually go under invention. But that thesis statement is going to be what you need to prove if your essay is successful. If at the end of your essay, your reader does not agree with your thesis, they haven't been persuaded, then you haven't been successful in your essay. That thesis should be specific. It should be arguable, as in it should be true or false. And hopefully it's controversial. Now, I don't want us to think, okay, then the more controversial, the better. We do also want it to be true. But the best essays will be something that you find true that's also worth the read. For instance, if I say trees are plants, that's not interesting. It's not controversial. Everyone's going to believe it. If I say, because it is raining, we call that a truism. It's something that is, by its very definition, true. Don't make your essay a truism. Don't make your essay something that is so obviously true that it's not even worth reading. If nobody disagrees with you at the beginning of your paper, why would anybody read to the end? Finally, this video is going to be on style. Kreider, I'm using Kreider's terms here. He suggests that the writing of our essay should be appropriate, concise, precise, and vivid. We've talked about how form is content, about how it's not just something that we add to content, it's not just something that we kind of dress content up in. Form is content itself. If that's true, then the style with which we write our essay will dramatically change its meaning. I'm going to give you a few different examples that will hopefully flesh that out. Before we go there, we have to touch on this first. Before we can start to look at the nuances of language, about what appropriate looks like, what concise, precise, and vivid look like, we have to be able to master spelling, grammar, punctuation. We have to be able to control language in a way that is actually clear. Our reader needs to know what we're saying. It needs to fit into the common conventions of English structure. If it doesn't, nobody's going to understand what we're saying. Form is content. If they can't read it, they don't get your content. And as the year goes on, we will be looking at different forms of, or different grammatical structures, or how to use a comma or a semicolon. And this will make us better writers. We need to control this. Okay, so as you probably noticed, the board just switched. This is the miracle of technology. I'm jumping from one board to another. But on our last board, we said, okay, Kreider wants us to see that language needs to be appropriate, concise, precise, and vivid. I'm going to try to walk through what those different words mean, and hopefully it's going to make the style of our essay better. Again, I'm sorry, I know the notes aren't the best. They're a little bit small. Lean right in there. First, he says it's got to be appropriate. I totally agree. You need to know who your audience is. If you're writing text, then you can write it with a lowercase u instead of you. But if you're writing to an academic audience, and in the academic essay you always will be, you need to write in academic speak. That means we don't use contractions, we don't use slang, you don't say wanna or gonna, and you definitely make sure that the grammatical structure makes sense. For instance, if I'm talking about A Dog for Rock, a short story that we may have looked at, I'm not going to say rock sucks as my thesis statement. It's not appropriate to my essay. I may suggest something about Rock that limits his character. I may say something about Rock that suggests he's not a great guy. But I'm not going to say Rock sucks. This is how I would talk to a peer, or this is what I would put onto Twitter. It's not what I'm going to put into my academic essay. What that does not mean is just that you're looking for big words. We're not saying academic speak is about finding the biggest word out there. It's about finding the best word out there. It's about finding a word that is correct for the context that you're using it. We're going to talk about this more when we talk about precise language. But we need to understand first that we're talking to an academic audience, that we're not using slang, and that still does not mean we're looking for big words. Now, we do want to expand our vocabulary because we want to be able to find what the right word is, and we don't often know it, and it's part of the joy of kind of experiencing the English language. If you're going to use a thesaurus, if you're going to say, okay, the boy went to the store, I want to find a different word for went, that's great, use a thesaurus, but please also use a dictionary. If you want to find a different word, so maybe it's sprinted or dashed to the store, please also have a dictionary out so you can say, what does that word actually mean? 2, Kreider says your style needs to be precise. Don't you just use any word out there. Use the right word. Use exactly the right word. I got 2 words here. One is angry. One is enraged. Was the guy angry or was he enraged? Because one is going to suggest that he's mad, and the other is going to suggest much more than that. Enraged is something much bigger than just mad. Don't use angry if you mean enraged, and vice versa. And then finally, it means defining when necessary. If your thesis is that love is an important thing, which, by the way, would not be a good thesis statement, if your thesis statement is love is an important thing, you better define what love is, and you definitely need to define what you mean by important. If you don't define words in your paper is not going to be precise. It's just going to be a bunch of random thoughts. And Kreider is going to say to us, if you're holding the soul of the reader in your hands, if there's a chance that you could change the way that they act because of what you're showing them in your paper, then you better make it right. You better make it precise, because if you don't, you're going to affect them in ways you don't want to. You don't want to misrepresent your idea. You want it to be clear and accurate. 3rd, he says it's got to be concise. Don't waste your reader's time. If you can say something in 15 words, don't use 20 and don't use 30 and definitely don't use 100 to say what you could say in 15. I'll give you a really quick example. You could start a sentence with, as a result of the fact that, as a result of the fact that you're watching YouTube, you're having a lot of fun. But you could also say, because. As a result of the fact that you're watching YouTube, you're having a lot of fun. Or, because you're watching YouTube, you're having a lot of fun. This second one is better, despite the fact that they're both equally true. Here's a hint. Use good verbs. If you can use a strong verb, you don't need to explain it. For instance, if I said the boy went to the store, I may need to also explain how his legs were moving and how he was in a hurry and how he needed something. Or I could say the boy rushed to the store. And suddenly I've said in 5 words what I would have had to otherwise say in 30. Use a good verb. Cut down how many words you have to use. Sometimes you're going to have to repeat things. That's fine. For the clarity of your paper, repeat whenever is absolutely necessary. But don't repeat just for the sake of repeating. And definitely don't repeat just to hit the word count. If you've got 2 points and you're looking for more, then add more. Flesh things out. Don't just repeat something you've got before. Finally, number 4. Your style should be vivid. It's not enough that it's just appropriate, precise, and concise. It's got to also be beautiful. And hopefully, if we've recognized that form is content, you're going to fit the style of your writing to the content that you're writing about. You're going to write in a way that mirrors the content that you're writing about. Right here, I'm not sure if you can read this, but it says, do not underestimate the power of metaphor or example. Do not underestimate the power of metaphor or example. It's very possible that you could find some sort of example or idea that will bring together for the reader something that they wouldn't otherwise understand. Take them from what they don't know to what they will know by using a metaphor. If you can find an incredible metaphor, it can tie your whole paper together. Let's have beautiful writing. Let's have effective and clear writing. Let's have appropriate, precise, concise, and vivid writing. If we take our invention, we structure it, and then we build our sentences, understanding that style matters, maybe Kreider will be right, and maybe we can take an idea and use it to change the way that people act. Maybe they will change the way they think because of your paper. Good luck.